Auburn versus Florida State in men's golf in the national championships last night until the bitter end because I was rooting so hard for Auburn to win because Florida won last year. I did not want Florida State to win this year. How crazy am I?
That is pretty crazy, honestly. That's extreme.
I mean, I'll give you the excuse of like there wasn't a whole heck of a lot else on.
There we go. That makes me feel better.
I watched, hockey fans out there were giving you some love. The Western Conference Finals, pretty dynamite as well between Edmonton and Dallas, 2-2 until Edmonton scored twice in the same minute. But even that game didn't start until I believe 9:30. We were watching the WNBA because we were like, there's literally no other sports on right now. I mean, there's Major League Baseball, obviously, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I did watch Major League Baseball as well.
Yeah.
Yes, that we had that on as well, and that was awesome because, at least for the Rays, Jose Siri not only robbed a home run but then walked off the game winner. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. Not a home run, but a single. All right, let's get it to Randy Mueller, who writes for The Athletic. He wrote about Trevor Lawrence, and we're not going to talk about the contract, whether or not he should get the extension. We've done that. I think a lot of shows on 1010XL have done that. But I wanted to break down some of the stats that he put in there and what his perspective is as far as he questions whether Trevor Lawrence is patient enough in the pocket. And so here's a couple of the stats that I wanted to absolutely discuss and get y'all's opinion on if you've seen the same thing. So he says 10 of Trevor Lawrence's turnovers came on third down. I think most of us know that. The most in the NFL. He converted just 38% of third downs. That's along the likes of Desmond Ridder, Daniel Jones, Joshua Dobbs. Not great, obviously, as far as being in the category with those quarterbacks. And on third downs in the fourth quarter, Lawrence completed 58.1% of his passes. So not anywhere near Kyler Murray, who led the league 79.2%. But here's the key to me. He says he needs to have more patience to let the plays develop instead of trying to have his targets open right away. Agree, disagree?
I would say there's a lot of factors that go into some of these situations, obviously, but I do think when you go back and he goes into a lot of detail of some of the, of the moments of what kind of he's talking about when he's saying being patient. So if you have not read this article, read it because it's really, really good. And it's maybe some things you don't want to hear, but we have been talking about, and Doug Peterson himself spoke on that situational football, and that's exactly what this is. When we talk about situational football, in the moments when we're talking about the converting third downs or you're talking about red zone, those are the moments where Trevor has the most turnovers in general, and you can't. Those are the moments that you're looking to score. And when we're talking about yesterday, we mentioned how many yards he has, but the touchdowns aren't with other people. And these are the situations why. So I think there's many factors that you could go by. You could go back and probably look at each turnover, and there'll be different reasons for some of them. But I do think some of them you could go to. We talk about his quick release because he's able to do that, so he can get the ball out pretty quick, and that's why he has avoided, probably even behind a really bad offensive line, being one of the leaders in sacks because he's able to avoid those situations. But he does kind of find his comfort and go there, and if it's not there, we see the ball getting launched down the field to just try and get it out. And sometimes that turns into drops, and sometimes that turns into overthrows and other situations like that. So I think there definitely are moments where that has factored Trevor Lawrence.
I go back to the conversation we had yesterday that Doug Peterson noted. We need to start accepting that this notion of, well, everybody has the second-year jump, and if you don't have the second-year jump, then it's just never going to happen for you. We need to start looking at the development of quarterbacks as more of a 3 to 4 year process. And I know there are those of you driving around saying more excuses for Trevor, more excuses for Trevor. I'm sure you're also the same people that were dazzled by Jordan Love, who, yes, his first year playing as the full-time starter in Green Bay, 3 seasons to sit back and develop. Same with Aaron Rodgers before him. You go right down the line, even to Jared Goff, who it took 2 to 3 years for him to really get off the ground running, and now part of that was the team around him when the Rams first relocated from St. Louis to L.A. was abysmal. I don't know. Last I checked, the roster here in 2021 really wasn't the all-stars, if you know what I mean. And so, therefore, he was given some time, finally had the coach brought in that matched his style in Sean McVay. And even then, they determined that he wasn't going to help them reach their ceiling. And now he goes to Detroit, and he takes it to a whole nother level. And he's 29 years old. Sometimes it doesn't actually click at 21 or 22 years old. It did for Mahomes. That's great. A lot of people believe it's going to for C.J. Stroud. That remains to be seen. Let's see what happens in year 2. Trevor is 24 years old. Give him some time.
Jared Goff also in year 3, though, had like over 4,600 yards and 32 touchdowns.
But the first 2 years.
He still had 3,800, 28 touchdowns and just 7 picks. So he's still pretty quickly. People were just thinking he more so couldn't win the important big games in LA, and I think that was more of the factor. They thought that someone with the experience of Matthew Stafford would help, which clearly they won the Super Bowl right after that. But Jared Goff pretty quickly was at least putting up the numbers that people want to happen here.
And because Sean McVay became his head coach.
Yes.
And he didn't have Jeff Fisher anymore.
Yes.
That was also a big factor of it, which is where you throw away year 1. You throw away year 1 for Trevor. And look, if we're going to go based off those numbers, which thank you to Taylor for pulling those numbers up, then year 3 or year 2 in the Doug Peterson system was a disappointment. But what Mueller also notes in this New York Times / The Athletic article is as he kind of dissects Lawrence, quote, seems to want to flush from the pocket as soon as possible instead of stepping up. Those muddy pockets are not for everyone, even if you're 6'6". It's worth noting he battled knee, ankle, and shoulder injuries during the 2023 season, missing 1 game. That certainly could have affected his comfort in the pocket. Again, some of you will say that's an excuse. I believe it's reality, and it's something that Jared Goff didn't have to confront in year 3, in which the LA Rams were the greatest show on turf outside of Kansas City.
Yeah, the injuries are the biggest thing for us to, when we try to dissect, is Trevor on the right trajectory? Before the injuries, he absolutely was. After the injuries, he wasn't, right? And of course, as a quarterback, you do not want to get hit by these 300-pound defensive linemen when you're already, but you don't want to get hit first and foremost, but you really don't want to get hit when you're already battling injuries. And we all saw that knee brace. We weren't even sure he was going to play against the Saints leading up to that Thursday night game. And so that's the one part of this that it's so hard to analyze, because as we look around the league, a lot of other quarterbacks were out for the entire season, like a Joe Burrow, like a Deshaun Watson.
Missing a lot of games.
Right. They don't even have to have stats then playing through injuries, because they just sat the rest of the season out. And would it have helped Trevor if he had missed some games to get healthy? Now, in retrospect, I bet a lot of people in that building would say yes. But they were so desperate to win every game, because that's how all NFL teams are, that you trot out the guy that you think can give you the best opportunity, even if that player is only 70%. So that's where we can't analyze, I feel like, the second half of last season the same way we did the season prior and the first half of last season.
Because again, we quoted the PFF article last week. Statistically speaking, he was a top 8 quarterback when they were 8-3. I understand things went awry and quote unquote, that's when it matters most. I get that. But statistically speaking, when he was healthy, they were 8-3 and he was a top 8 quarterback. And yes, I see those of you complaining that we're coming up with more excuses on the text line designed by Lifetime Enclosures. I'll just tell you this. I've had many conversations, including our conversation earlier this week with Ty Dunn, national reporter, Go Long TD. And I've had conversations with other national reporters who don't have to defend Trevor Lawrence at every turn, quote unquote.
Yeah. And Ty Dunn himself said the offense, even when they were 8-3, was underwhelming.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. But he's still.
It was like you were barely beating not good football teams, is kind of what he said when we were talking to him. And so good. I'm glad Trevor can be 8-3 against teams that weren't super competitive against the rest of the league either. And I don't want to think, I think Trevor can be that guy.
Right.
I'm not one of the people that are like, give up, move on, Mac Jones is the quarterback. I am more so like, there are things he has to work on, and we can't keep pushing that aside and making excuses. Like, at some point you have to be like, these moments, this situational football has been an issue.
Yeah, I was more so going to hint at, very true. I was going to hint at the point that they have all said, like, there's always the disclaimer of, quote, I remain bullish on Trevor Lawrence. You hear that from all different NFL circles. That's not just from writers, that's from coaches, that's from scouts around the league. People are not writing him off outside of those on the text line designed by Lifetime Enclosures. Firmly believe it.
Yeah, and the majority say, like, their first sentence usually is, I think he can still be one of the better. In this article, I think he says, you know, he has the ability to be a more athletic Joe Burrow, but he sees a more bigger, faster, I think that's the 2 words he said, Daniel Jones. That is probably not what people here want to hear, but I don't think he technically even meant that as an insult, because he's pretty much saying a better Daniel Jones, but he sees more of that than one of the top 3 guys is where he's saying.
Well, and if you have someone who's analyzing this and the perspective that they come up with is that he needs more patience in the pocket, it's not the processing that's the issue. That's what you want to hear, is that it's not that the game needs to slow down for him. It's that at times he takes off and runs. Well, when he does that, or if he runs to the pass, well, then half of the field is cut off. And so you don't get those weapons, and those guys don't have to, the cornerbacks and the safeties don't have to worry about those receivers or that tight end over there. And so that's certainly part of it, but it's not the processing that he's concerned about. It's more the patience in the pocket.
Yeah.
And that comes when
he also
you
said
have,
the accuracy is not the issue either, he doesn't believe.
Exactly, and that comes when you have an offensive line that gives you time to throw the ball. And that's one thing that Randy did not get into whatsoever is the offensive line last year. I'm sure that if he went back and watched that tape, he would be like, okay, now I understand why Trevor Lawrence wasn't patient in the pocket, because he doesn't trust the offensive line to protect him. And, oh, by the way, his leading receiver was constantly in the wrong place at the wrong time. Maybe not constantly, but sometimes in the wrong place at the wrong time. How can you be patient in the pocket if you're not sure that the guy that you need to throw the football to is going to be in the exact right spot? Because then you're afraid you're going to throw an interception.
I go back to, and again, a lot of conversations with national writers these last few weeks, like, truly, who would have thought that Christian Kirk was the cog in the machine, that if you took him out, everything else just went, because that's honestly what happened. Although, as I just wanted to get out there, and I just wrote back to somebody on the text line, the Bengals game, before he got hurt, statistically speaking, was Trevor's best game of the season, but he was playing from behind almost the entire game because the offense couldn't stop the defense, couldn't stop Chase Brown and Joe Mixon, and also Jake Browning.
Yes. Which honestly pointed to a lot of games, and I think a lot of this also, and he mentioned it a little bit too, and the run game not being there, and if you do have the run game, how it does open other opportunities. I just think that I get it, and I think that being patient is not an easy thing, especially when you're behind a line that struggles, but I do think sometimes it also hurts your line if you're one of those quarterbacks that jumps out of the pocket too quick, and he said that's one of the things he believes Trevor does, because the moment that you jump out of there and you're moving around, then it kind of disrupts what the offensive line is doing as a whole too. So it could be a thing where the line maybe looked a little worse at times because Trevor was moving too quickly and not letting things play out. And I think there was a lot of times we know they could not run the ball, so a lot of it was on the offensive line, but Trevor is at fault on some of those times that things broke down.
I was also told that the reason that the Jaguars were top 10 in least sacks given up in 2022 was because of Trevor, and yet also that exists. That also exists.
It plays back and forth.
Right, exactly. So yes, for those of you who want to say that sacks are a quarterback stat, okay, but when he's abandoning the pocket and abandoning the framework, then yes, then he is also at fault. And that's not an excuse that we're making up, so take that.
The off-schedule plays for a quarterback seem to really only work for Patrick Mahomes. Like, almost no other offense can you point to and say that when the quarterback escapes the pocket that good things happen. Usually it doesn't. And whether that leads to a sack, a fumble, whatever it may be, but Mahomes is the outlier. And that Kansas City offense, he just finds a way. And it's frustrating because you want to say, well, why can't the Jaguars be as good as the Chiefs? Well, honestly, because no quarterback is as good as Patrick Mahomes with everything that he does.
Yeah, because he's one of those people, and it honestly does remind me in certain aspects of Aaron Rodgers too. They're so football smart, and I think that word patient plays well because they're not one of those guys. There's sometimes where you're yelling at the TV to get rid of the ball, get rid of the ball. And the moments that Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers and these best guys, even Tom Brady at times, when you think they should just get rid of the ball, play's done, nothing will happen, they find that next step. And not every quarterback, not every offense is built to be able to do that. And so I think sometimes that's something that Trevor, him being able to, and he speaks on it in college, the difference of like what he had in college versus what he has now. And so when you're talking about the situations he was not put in college, and then now he is put in because you're facing some of the best defensemen that you'll ever face and the fastest, and they're coming at you on both sides, and all of these other factors that play into what you get in the NFL. He just if you settle a little bit, and some of it I think he does try to play hero ball, and I've said that before, rather than just taking the check down or rather than just making kind of the easy play, which they don't want to because they're used to making these big, incredible plays in college and it being a touchdown rather than kind of slowly driving up the field, which we see other teams do, and it works. I think the Lions are a good example of that. So it's just a little bit of all of these little things that I think the patience factor, the settle down factor will really take a step up with this offense. But in addition, having guys like we've talked about, Brian Thomas Jr. and Gabe Davis, potentially being able to help too because of the being able to add to that vertical part of the offense.
Yeah, if you missed it, again, we're talking about Randy Mueller of The Athletic and the article he wrote on Trevor Lawrence. He finishes the article basically saying sometimes by looking deep you can see short. Trevor hasn't perfected that yet.
Yeah.
And that's where to Mia's point about Christian Kirk, you only had, once Kirk goes down in the middle of the field, you only have Evan Ingram at that point. Well, the defense is easily going to identify that and take that option away and then force Trevor to go outside. And like we talked about, Ridley wasn't always in the right spot. And there weren't really other guys that were out there that were able to beat teams deep. And so you end up with this offense, like we talked about, that was pretty much broken for certain games. I mean, certainly in the beginning of the season against the Chiefs and the Texans, the offense looked atrocious.
Yep. Yeah. And so it's not just me that's saying, again. And I, by the way, my podcast with Ty Dunn is now available at Go Long. He tweeted that out earlier this morning. And I said, I firmly believe the Jaguars could go on and win the Super Bowl this year. And Doug Peterson will still not tell you who the primary play caller is. He will not tell you. I'm just, for all of you who've been clamoring, saying they need to figure it out, they figured it out. Trust me.
This article talks about that too. He was like, maybe the play calling is a part of what is going on. We'll figure it out, because he goes back and talks about Doug and Philly and what he was able to do with Carson Wentz and that, and how well Carson Wentz did that season, and it kind of related it to what Trevor was doing and was saying it was working for Carson Wentz. Why can't it work for Trevor Lawrence?
Right, and it goes back to that question that Brent Martineau asked Doug at the Combine, which, look, shout out to Brent. He asked him, and I could tell in Doug's eyes, he was like stunned at this question, where he said, if you're considered a top 5 play caller in the league, isn't it a detriment? Aren't you not really fulfilling your job if you are not exemplifying that skill set and putting it to use here in Jacksonville? Aren't you doing the organization a disservice? And he was like, yeah, I got to look myself in the mirror and ask that question.
Yeah.
But to your belief, we're never going to find that answer out.
No. It's collaboration, Lauren. It's collaboration.
So
it's all collaborative.
Stop asking.
So what happens if the offense falls short again next season? Does he pretend take over the play calling and pretend?
No, then
like what happens?
No.
He calls press out and been like, well, it's been press or it's been
then because then his job's on the line.
Yeah.
So then he has to take it back, and then it becomes a situation, Taylor, you are very familiar with the Chicago Bears.
Yes.
It becomes the out in the media. I took the play calling back. This is a last ditch effort to save my job. It will very much be played out that way, and he has to be vocal about it. He's earned a little bit of street cred because, again, the Jaguars hadn't had back-to-back winning seasons since the early 2000s. And so he's earned enough of a leash that they can do this song and dance over the next few months. But no, if things don't go well in 2024, I don't, unless they were to go just crater,
terrible.
right?
Yeah.
Unless they were to have 4 or 5 wins, Doug Peterson will be here in 2025. But absolutely, and
People will start questioning, because they'll now look at last year and be like, this defense, apparently defensive coaches weren't coaching whatsoever, and that went on throughout the entire season. And then now play calling isn't being addressed the way it should have been addressed. So there'll be a lot of things that people will start pointing Doug out fault if things don't flip around this year.
Shad Khan.
Not saying Shad.
No. Shad, I was about to say something. Shad Khan, with all due respect to these two gentlemen, he gave Gus Bradley 4 years.
Yeah.
He gave Doug Marrone 4 years. Doug Peterson will get to year 4. I can assure you that. Unless, like I said, it's to absolutely crater to a 3 or 4 win season, which...
with Trevor playing.
Look, we're going to run through. BetOnline came out with the odds for the Jaguars' entire 17-game schedule. We'll kind of run through some of those numbers. And, of course, the game is not played on paper. But, from what they've predicted, Lauren, it looks like 9-8, 10-7.
Yeah, it looks like Taylor's right when she predicted 9-8.
Right.
Again.
Right. And is that good enough? I think it's better than what your predecessors put out there on the field.
Definitely.
But is it enough? Is that the standard that has been set? I will also tell you this. If they're to fall below expectations or not exceed expectations this year, if they're to not make the playoffs, then he has no choice in terms of Press Taylor. Like, not only would Doug have to vocally say, I'm taking the play calling back.
But what if he's play calling?
Right now?
No, what if he does?
Yeah, and
then it's not good, but they never talk about it. Does he pretend like I'm taking play calling, or does
he
be like, I have to give it back to Press? I tricked you guys. I've been calling plays this whole time.
Well, I'll tell you this. Ty Dunn sat down with a lot of people in that building that we get access to, but not the access that he got. And they know, and his article is going to come out soon, that they know that they have to win. Yeah. There has been a fire lit underneath that coaching staff. They understand if they don't win this year, there will be heck to pay.
I can understand that because they had such a collapse last season, and you have, quote-unquote, a generational quarterback that we talk about. Like I always say, we talk about him every day.
Yeah.
And there's a good reason for that, because this organization is not going in the right direction if he doesn't improve. And it's crazy to think how many people's jobs really are all based off of one person.
Yeah, I know.
And it's all the quarterback.
It's a little
for
scary
every NFL team.
Hell, I mean, I'm sitting here in meetings, and I'm like, as we're talking about our proliferation of our social media channels, and I'm like, I do need Trevor to do his thing because, good news is what sells on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and beyond. So, look, it's certainly a weight for him to carry. Yeah. It's a weight he's had to carry since he was 15 years old. Yeah. And to Taylor's point, look, let's be critical. Let's identify the things he needs to improve upon. That's where thank you, Randy Mueller, for pointing out some of those things, whether you agree with them or not. And I believe that Trevor came off of last season, one of the first years in his entire career, because we'll take Urban Meyer year out, that he fell short of expectations. And by fell short of expectations, I don't mean losing in the college football playoff. I mean not making the postseason, and had to look himself in the mirror and say, do I really want to do this? Yeah. And how can I take it to another level?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that I think Trevor has it. I've said that a million times, so I don't want people to think that I'm like one of the Trevor haters. I just do think at some point you do have to call out certain parts of a game that doesn't work, even when you love other parts of it. Because when he got drafted, we're like, heck yeah, 10 years of a generational quarterback. Here we go. We're 4 years now into that decade that we were talking about. It's time to start showing it.
And the Jaguars, when healthy, showed it 2 years ago. And that's why I go back to the injuries. Last season, all of that, I think, played a huge factor. To me, who's calling the plays, they're going to figure that out. It does not give me as much consternation as it gives certain people. I think Doug Peterson is an incredibly smart human being when it comes to the game of football, and he knows what works and what doesn't. And but bringing it all back to Trevor has to take over the offense. Yep. We talked about it being the Bills are going to be running Josh Allen's offense up there. That's what we have to be talking about this time next year, is that the Jaguars are running Trevor Lawrence's offense, and who calls the plays, it shouldn't be as big of a deal as the quarterback figuring out exactly what he wants to run.
It didn't matter in 2022. We didn't know that Press was technically calling the plays in the second half of games. No one knew, and it didn't matter. And then all of a sudden it mattered because to someone's camp and their credibility, they needed to get it out there in the open.
All right, did the Jaguars have a top 5 pass-catching unit? According to Bucky Brooks, we will let you know that next on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
1010XL salutes David Lamb, a true pioneer in sports radio in Jacksonville and an authentic sports icon to so many here. We'll miss you, David. Rest in peace.
Imagine driving a late model Corvette, BMW, Mercedes, Lexus, Honda, Chevy, Ford, and more, all at a fraction of the original sticker price. Visit Vaughn Motor Group's indoor showroom and browse a great selection of dream cars that are inspected with warranties. Before you make your next auto purchase, check out Vaughn Motor Group on San Jose Boulevard or at vaughnmotorgroup.com for a complete inventory listing. If you can dream it, you can drive it at Vaughn Motor Group.
Hey Jacksonville, I'm sure by now you've seen our bright green GFL trucks and containers throughout the greater Jacksonville area. We are an industry leader in solid waste and would love the opportunity to earn your business. We are committed to customer service, reliability, and have unwavering focus on safety. Whether commercial or construction, let us haul your waste away. Call 904-760-5880 to get a quote today. GFL, green for life.
Bet on any fight, anytime, from anywhere with MyBookie. Mia here, and with UFC 302 this weekend, it's not just about betting winners. You're betting on yourself at MyBookie. Boosted bets and exclusive money bag props give you everything you need to cash in on your fight knowledge. And the best part is, when you play with MyBookie, you can stream and bet live right from the sportsbook, so you can turn those big fights into big wins. A main event clash between Islam Makhachev and Dustin Poirier sets the tone for what should be one of the most intense cards of the year. This is Makhachev's first title defense against a legitimate lightweight contender, whilst Poirier is looking to continue momentum from a stunning comeback earlier this year. You know you're going to watch the fights this weekend anyways, so choose the book that makes it simple to bet and easy to get paid. Sign up using promo code 1010XL. That's promo code 1010XL. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere, only with MyBookie.
It's not training camp, but it is the start of a new season. Listen for 1010XL's coverage of organized team activities and minicamp.
Go, here we go.
Brought to you by Duck Rooter Plumbing, Septic and Air Conditioning, a proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Did you know a metal roof from Prime Roofing has the highest wind and impact ratings available? If you want a stronger roof, think metal. Think Prime Roofing. Learn more at primeroofingfl.com. That's primeroofingfl.com.
Hey, it's Matt Hayes. This summer, let's make a pledge to fit into last year's shorts. How about your high school shorts? I am this summer thanks to dropping 40 pounds with Awaken 180. Don't buy bigger shorts. Instead, do what I did. Choose the solution for weight loss. Awaken 180 weight loss.
Rick Ballou for Carlson Dental. You know, I've been telling you this for quite some time because it's true. I hate going to the dentist, or at least I used to hate going to the dentist. I had total anxiety, and then I tried sedation, light sedation for cleaning and deep sedation as well for cavities and root canals. Folks, it's an incredible experience. So don't be nervous. Don't be scared. Go to carlsondentalgroup.com. That's carlsondentalgroup.com for all of your dental needs.
All right, get those boats ready. The Dailies Old School Kingfish Shootout presented by Yellowfin is coming soon to St. Augustine. It's June 8th. Just go to oldschoolkingfish.com. You can find out more. The grand prize is a Yellowfin bay boat. And with limited boundaries, no bait buying, and no checkout, it is seriously old school. That's why it's the Old School Kingfish Shootout. Here's how you do it. You go online, you sign up, and you become part of what is going to a terrific event. It's the Old School Kingfish Shootout. Go to oldschoolkingfish.com.
The saying goes, the grass is greener on the other side. Well, that is actually true if your neighbor installed artificial turf. Lauren Brooks here from my friends at Sunshine Turf, a family-owned local company that will take your backyard dreams and turn them into a reality. Caleb can design anything from putting greens to pet runs, and if you have a pool, you'll definitely love maintenance-free turf around it. Visit sunshineturf.info to get a free quote today. Sunshine Turf. That's sunshineturf.info.
This is Hayes Carlion for QC Kinetics. Are you not able to enjoy this summer as much as you want because of joint pain? Well, give my friends at QC Kinetics a call at 904-274-5522 for a free consultation. They're serving the Jacksonville area with locations in Mandarin and Ponte Vedra Beach. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in regenerative medicine. I'm talking lasting joint pain relief with no surgery, no drugs, and no downtime. QC Kinetics advanced treatments harness your own body's ability to restore and repair damaged joint tissue so you can walk, run, hike, play golf, move again, pain-free. Their advanced protocols have enabled tens of thousands of patients to reclaim their mobility. Stop putting it off. Take action now and live your best life again. Call QC Kinetics now for a free consultation, 904-274-5522 in Mandarin and Ponte Vedra. That is QC Kinetics.
Looking to make a great impression? Dylan Denmark here, folks, and when I want to score big, I send flowers or a plant from Jacksonville's best, Kuhn Flowers. Yeah, man, it's always a good thing to send someone a Kuhn floral arrangement, KuhnFlowers.com.
Lauren Brooks here from Mayport CNC Fisheries. At my house, we had a feast from Mayport CNC Fisheries with the freshest shrimp around, and it was unbelievable. They also have oysters, scallops, mahi, and so much more. Want to eat like a local? Head to the beach and visit my friends at Mayport CNC Fisheries.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
This is Helmets and Heels.
Kept classy by First Coast Lighting and Fans. Upscale lighting, fans, and home decor.
On 1010XL.
Bucky Brooks listed his top 5 pass-catching units on Daniel Jeremiah's Move the Sticks podcast. Are the Jaguars in the top 5?
No.
Spoiler alert, no. But I think most people listening probably wouldn't have expected that. So we will count down his top 5, starting from number 5. He has the Seattle Seahawks with DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Jackson Smith, and Jigba, and tight end Noah Fant. How do the Jaguars compare to that pass-catching unit?
Well, I think what's going to be interesting with that unit is, of course, they do have a first-time head coach, Mike McDonald, and he's more on the defensive side of the ball. I'm very curious after things were done a particular way under Pete Carroll, who, yes, is a defensive-minded coach as well, but even with a rotating door at offense coordinator, things tended to be done a certain way in Seattle over the past decade plus. And so I'm curious what that'll mean. Maybe it takes that pass-catching group to the next level. Maybe it doesn't. But certainly, at least on the surface level, Taylor, you got a first-rounder in JSN.
Mm-hmm.
You got DK Metcalf, who's proved everybody wrong and been a consistent top 10 wide receiver. And then you have Tyler Lockett, who's perhaps one of the more underrated receivers in the National Football League.
Yeah, and I think this list, you almost have to take out quarterback and offensive coordinator and just the receivers themselves and what you've seen from them, or some of them more so what you're expecting from them to do this season. Some of them will be like, hey, are they going to take a leap up? Are they, if it's a rookie, how quick are you expecting them to be a part of this offense? But to me, and he goes in and he says, like, the reason he has his list this way is because he was looking at, if he was a DC, if he was a defensive coordinator, who would he be most scared to have to defend when you're going up against these guys? And there's different combinations of how you can analyze that. So to me, when it comes to Seattle, obviously DK Metcalf is an absolute monster and he's huge, and Tyler Lockett's quick and fast and he can kind of be all over the field. JSN had a really good first season with them, and he was even on almost, you could say, even a little underutilized. So I would expect a step up with him too.
Again, sometimes it takes people a year or two to develop in the National Football League. I know that's surprising to many of you.
Yeah, you just hope not 4 years. But I think that when somebody like that, I feel like I want to say he had almost 700 yards last season. So with DK and Tyler Lockett also on the field. So to me, I see it. It's an interesting one to me because, to not give anything away, he does not have the Bengals wide receiver group on this list. And he even said he went back and forth between Seattle and Cincinnati. It'd be hard for me to not put Jamar Chase and T. Higgins on a top 5 list, but I get it when you're looking, like you said, on paper of just what these guys have produced.
Yeah, I think this is the group that the Jaguars are probably closest to of the groups in the top 5, because size, that's your Gabe Davis. Now, I'm not going to say Gabe Davis is anything like DK Metcalf, like as far as the physicality is concerned, but he's your size receiver, or the biggest size receiver. Then you've got speed. That's going to be either of their guys, Lockett and Jackson Smith and Jigba. That's obviously Brian Thomas Jr.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think Evan Ingram is better than Noah Fant. So
yes.
I think this is where the Jaguars probably are the closest to. So then getting to Taylor's team, number 4.
Wait, hold on, Taylor.
Yeah.
Or Lauren, you just let me downplay an Iowa product and say that someone's better than them. We need to honor this moment.
Well, there are other Iowa tight ends that you'd probably talk
Noah
glowingly
Fant,
of.
though, it's interesting because, like, he was an athletic freak when he got to campus.
Yeah.
I mean, George Kittle was there, and they couldn't redshirt him. Like, they redshirted T.J. Hawkinson the same year. They were like, we need this guy to play. And unfortunately, he ends up becoming kind of collateral damage in the Russell Wilson trade. He was one of the players that was acquired by Seattle, and maybe the role hasn't had the usage that many people saw him having in the league. But to your point, yes, in terms of productivity, proven track record, I would take Evan Ingram all day.
The Bears, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, the rookie, and tight end Cole Kmet. Taylor, you know this group well. Obviously, Odunze, you haven't been able to see him yet, but how would you evaluate this group?
Yeah, I mean, I think that obviously I'm a little biased with it, but they're but they're also on every single list that you see anybody talking about wide receivers. It's this list. I mean, Keenan Allen, and DJ Moore both were in the top of the receiving group last year. And let me just preface that with saying it was a Bears team that threw almost half the amount of any other team in the NFL, and DJ Moore was still there. He's fantastic. He is one of the best when it comes to yards after catch. Keenan Allen is probably one of the best route runners that you have in the NFL, even in year 11, heading into 12. We don't know what Rome Odunze is yet. But that's your third wide receiver, and then that's not even mentioning Cole Kmet, who also sat towards the top at tight ends last year, and then Gerald Everett, who when healthy is also one of the better tight ends in the league too. So it's hard not to put this group, I think. Like I said, this is taking out quarterback and offensive coordinator because there's a new quarterback, there's a new OC, not quite sure exactly what things will look like. But when you have wide receivers that would be number ones on majority of rosters, if not number 2s, then I feel like you have to put them on that list.
Yeah, once they got Keenan Allen, I feel like that's what really took that group from pretty good to excellent.
And again, there's a track record with Keenan Allen. There's a track record with DJ Moore. I would be hesitant to say that a first-year player, there's a track record, because, again, we can't guarantee how anybody's going to translate to the league. But, again, from Daniel Jeremiah on down, every draft analyst, respected former scout that has put it out there into the universe has said he is the cleanest prospect at the wide receiver position they've seen since Larry Fitzgerald. So if there's anybody that you're going to say, we will allow for it to be extra ammo for why they make a top 5 pass catching unit ranking like this one, it's Roma Dunze.
Well, and like I said, he doesn't even have to, he's not even your 1 or 2. Or your 1 or 2. Like, you have 2 tight ends and a 1-2 wide receiver. Like, so if he had 700 yards this season as a wide receiver 3 with 5 touchdowns, I think Bears fans would be like, okay.
Let's go to the tight end part of this, though. So we talked about Noah Fant. So, again, we're running through Bucky Brooks, Daniel Jeremiah did a top 5 ranking of the best pass-catching units in the National Football League. The Jags are not in the top 5. We will get to where we believe they rank in just a second. But with the Seattle Seahawks at 5, Noah Fant, we said Evan Ingram's better than him. Cole Kmet at number 4. Is Evan Ingram better than him?
I don't know. It's hard. They're very different tight ends to begin. Like, I think Evan Ingram is more of that slot wide receiver type tight end, and Cole Kmet is a tight end. Like that, he's bigger like a tight end. He runs the tight end plays. He'll block. He'll do all of that type of stuff. So it is a little different. And like I said, I feel like we haven't even really got to see full Cole Kmet because it's been an offense that throws 320 times compared to almost 500 times. So you really haven't seen them be able to flourish, but he still sits in the top 10, 11 the last few seasons when it comes to yards and receptions and touchdowns and everything. But I think obviously when you see Evan Ingram last year, he was in the top 4 when it comes to receptions between wide receivers and tight ends.
So now let me throw DeAndre Swift at you. Do you believe he will be used primarily as a run threat? Obviously, he's a running back, but do you believe that there is a world in which this Bears offense is built around him being a pass catcher?
I think you'll see a little more with him. It's interesting to me that so many rankings, like I keep seeing, like, name these, which running back in the NFC is the best, or in the NFC North, whatever, and they keep putting Swift over Khalil Herbert, which is interesting to me because Khalil Herbert has proven himself in this Bears offense, and he's been really efficient. Struggled with a few injuries, but so has DeAndre Swift. And so it'll be interesting to me how they balance those two guys and who is doing what. The one knock on Herbert is that he can't really block, and Swift isn't a great blocker either, but better than. So it'll be interesting to me, honestly. There's so many weapons on this offense right now. I'm really interested in what Shane Waldron's going to do.
All right, team number 3, the Houston Texans.
Who did just pay Nico yesterday.
They did.
Stephon Diggs,
round
Nico
of applause.
Collins,
Hey, listen, round of applause.
No, we are not giving the Texans
Nico
a round
got the
of
bag.
applause. No.
Look, I'm going to give Nico Collins credit because I wrote him off. I thought he stunk on ice. I thought it was a waste of a day 2 pick. I was like, man, Nick Caserio, he couldn't hit a softball if he tried. And look, he batted 1,000, and he finds Tank Dell, whether that was from an Instagram DM or not, and he pairs him with Nico Collins, and that's what Nico Collins clearly needed. And, the John Mechie situation is, again, very unfortunate that, he was obviously diagnosed with leukemia right after he was drafted. He was also suffering from a knee injury that he was recovering from. It's an unfortunate situation.
Also unfortunate situation with Tank Dell.
Yeah, exactly. We don't know what's going to happen with him, and that's between the significant knee injury he suffered against the Jags in Houston at the end of November, coupled with, yes, he also was shot at a establishment outside of Orlando earlier this year. And so, but on paper, it was exciting last year. The film doesn't lie. When they were on the field together, Nico Collins, in my opinion, can only be a quote-unquote number 1 if he has a Tank Dell opposite him, which, look, he did have success in the last month and a half of the season without Tank Dell. I also think some of that has to deal with Dalton Schultz, who they also paid this offseason, who significantly underrated during his time with the Cowboys.
Yeah, I was about to say, and you add Dalton Schultz and Stephon Diggs, that takes your offense, it is, like we said, on paper, looking at the names that are there to a whole level. I agree they should be at the top.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate because we focus a lot on the Jaguars' defense and all the changes that have been made. Do you believe that the Jaguars' secondary, and this is a whole different conversation,
right,
that they did enough in order to combat weapons like that?
Right.
That's the biggest question.
That is a question we're going to have all off-season long. And maybe that's an exercise we write down for a rainy day this summer, Lauren. Going through the pass-catching units in the AFC South, do the Jaguars have the horses for the course? remains to be seen.
Yeah.
I know
that's a TBD.
I know at the safety position they do. I know undoubtedly. The cornerback position, they're banking on the health of Ronald Darby. They're banking on the development of some young players, including a third-round pick in Jarian Jones. But, I mean, at safety, I feel better. And I feel like there's going to be so much dime and so much quarters, especially after my conversation with Antonio Johnson earlier this week, available at the 1010XL Jaguars YouTube channel. They have enough at the safety position that they could run 3 safeties out there, and they'll have enough bodies. But in terms of keeping up with them and having that alpha dog opposite Tyson Campbell, that remains to be seen.
Yeah, it certainly does. All right, so the Eagles, I think a lot of people would agree with this one. A.J. Brown, thank you, Titans, for trading him to the Eagles. Devonta Smith, Paris Campbell, tight end Dallas Goedert. I mean, to me, if you were asking, could I exchange the Jaguars group for that group? No offense to any of them, and you know how much I love Brian Thomas Jr., I would take that group.
Well, it's also
that one is so, and they added Saquon, and I think that's an underrated thing because we also know that Saquon will add some to the receiving group, but in addition, how much that opens because people are so scared of Saquon Barkley and what he can do, and then you also have A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. That could be a scary group.
Can we pour one out for poor Doug Peterson? Which, look, I know there are those of you that will say that, it was his own doing. He was part of the draft process in Philadelphia. His final season in 2020, these were the wide receivers for the Philadelphia Eagles. Travis Fulgham, Jalen Reagor, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, Deontay Burnett, Hakeem Butler, UFL All-Pro, Iowa State's own. And then one more, John Hightower. That was the wide receiver room in Philadelphia, and here we are 4 years later.
With that.
Yeah, I would say that Jalen Hurts, you better earn that paycheck because that's a group that you should be able to get a lot of first downs with and touchdowns. And the final group the Jaguars face in week number 1. So we just talked about, can the Jaguars secondary face weapons like the Texans have? Well, the Dolphins, we all know Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, who got paid today, a 3-year contract worth almost $85 million with $76 million guaranteed. They've got Odell Beckham Jr. I feel like he's just kind of thrown in, and tight end Jonnu Smith. Yeah, good luck, Jaguars defense.
I think I was thinking about this on the drive-in. It's so interesting, which congrats to Jalen Waddle on getting paid too, but it's interesting that you've got 2 Alabama guys who, quote-unquote, number ones in their own right in Devontae Smith, a Heisman Trophy winner up in Philadelphia, and then Jalen Waddle, who many people believe was one of the more talented wide receivers to ever come out of Alabama during that stretch run in which they had first-round pick after first-round pick. They both get paired with perennial All-Pros who the team traded for. And it's a model that it is interesting that we haven't seen it replicated more around the league. I would like to think, and again, another unfortunate situation, sorry to bring it up, but the Las Vegas Raiders, I think ideally would have been the other team that would have had a similar model. They obviously traded for Devontae Adams, and then they had Henry Ruggs, who they drafted 13th overall. Obviously, we all know the situation there. Unfortunate situation indeed. But it's interesting, Taylor, that we haven't seen more teams model it, especially with those 2 teams in this ranking at number 1 and number 2 for overall pass-catching units.
Yeah, it is. And I think that some of it, obviously, with what the Dolphins, a lot of people kind of questioned, okay, well, you threw all this money at Tyreek Hill, and that's kind of been money thrown at offensive linemen that they've done, and then now they're in this situation with Tua where they're like, okay, we have to pay Tua, but how much do we pay Tua? So I think some teams are hesitant to spend this massive amount of money on some of the wide receivers, even though we've seen it work, because they're looking ahead like, man, we've got to pay our quarterback, or we've got to play, ABC player. And also we just saw last year, when you look at the last 2 drafts of wide receivers that have gone in the first, second round, almost every single one of them has been successful so far in their first couple seasons. So they're like, we could hit on one in the first round and not have to pay this guy as much as Tyreek Hill's getting, but at the same time, you do have to weigh the options of you get this proven player.
Absolutely. All right, we've got a giveaway, and Mia's got the latest odds for you. That is all next right here on 1010XL on 82.5 FM.
Now, another classic moment in Jags history.
The ball comes out and it's picked up. The Jags are going to run it into the end zone. Josh Allen scores a touchdown.
1010XL.
The Jags are going to win.
Home of the Jaguars.
After consulting with several orthopedic specialists about my constant knee pain, I chose Southeast Orthopedic Specialist and Dr. Chris Swanson to handle my surgery. Their professionalism let me know this team was the one for me. The surgery was very successful, and if I ever have a future need, I'll continue to trust Southeast Orthopedic Specialists to take care of me.
Relieve pain and get back to life. SOS. Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
Raise the stakes on excitement at Best Bet, your go-to spot for unbeatable entertainment and unmatched hospitality. With locations in Jacksonville, Orange Park, and the brand new Best Bet St. Augustine. No poker expertise? No problem. From high-stakes poker to casual games like Ultimate Texas Hold'em and Fortune Pie Gow, there's a game for everyone. Hungry for more? We're serving up delicious bites and craft cocktails, and we're open late. For details, visit bestbetjacks.com. That's bestbetjacks.com. Best Bet, your go-to spot for a thrilling night.
Attention skilled electricians. Are you undervalued at your current company? Time to step up to the bigger projects and better opportunities. Join the team at Miller Electric Company, a trusted name in the industry for over 96 years. At Miller, we tackle the biggest projects in the city, offering not just a job, but an experience, top-notch pay, unbeatable benefits, and the best working environments in the business. Please join the team that values your skills and rewards your hard work. Elevate your career to new heights. Apply today at millercareers.com, an equal opportunity employer.
Your AC's broke, it ain't no joke. Call Florida Home AC. Florida Home AC. Florida Home AC. Florida Home AC. FloridaHomeAC.com.
This date in sports history is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
On May 30th, 1927, pitcher Walter Johnson records his 110th and final shutout of his Baseball Hall of Fame career, the most in MLB history.
Brackish Vodka, a proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars, is the smoothest local vodka you can find. Made right here in Jacksonville, Florida, 100% from corn, Brackish Vodka is the local gluten-free choice. Brackish Vodka, for those that live life slightly salty, a proud partner of the Jaguars.
Come try Argyle Restaurant's delicious Thin Mint Martini, featuring Brackish Chocolate Confessions Vodka.
I'm Jeff Middlecoff with Trustline Mortgage. My business partners, Alan Tyre, Bill Pappas, and Ken Rimley, have been helping first-time home buyers with their mortgage financing all over Florida for 34 years. First-time home buyers can get no or low down payments, anywhere from 0 to 3.5% down. As a first-time home buyer with Trustline Mortgage, you get added benefits for doing your loan with us, like lower rates on your mortgage insurance and lower closing costs. Oh, and did I forget to mention that Trustline gives first-time homebuyers better mortgage interest rates? Here's the bottom line. Trustline Mortgage wants to help first-time homebuyers accomplish your goal of home ownership. That's why Trustline Mortgage is offering the best first-time homebuyer benefits around, period. Trustline Mortgage delivers with no and low down payments, lower closing costs, and better interest rates. Call Trustline Mortgage today at 381-LOAN. Yes, 381-LOAN to find out how we can help you buy your dream home. Or visit our website at trustlinemortgage.com. Trust your instincts and follow the line to Trustline Mortgage.
Certain restrictions apply. See office for details. Trustline is an equal housing opportunity. MLS number 331480.
Men, if you're suffering from erectile dysfunction or PE, Prime Men's Medical Center will get your sex life back in just one visit. Their painless, breakthrough medical treatments eliminate ED and PE. Here's a specialist in men's health.
I'm Dr. Simovitz. Have Viagra or Cialis let you down? Prime Men's Medical Center offers the most effective treatments that eliminate ED and PE, with men lasting longer than ever. 98% of patients see instant results on their first visit.
Prime Men's Medical Center's breakthrough treatments will restore your sex life regardless of age or medical history. Your consultation and first treatment are free. Plus, you'll see instant results in the office. Plus, qualified patients will have their testosterone checked free. Call 904-902-8222. 904-902-8222. To regain your sex life in just one visit, call now. 904-902-8222.
Now at Hodges Mazda, take advantage of 0% APR on our versatile lineup of 2024 Mazda crossover SUVs. Lauren Brooks here. Choose from the off-road ready Mazda CX-50, the stylish 2024 Mazda CX-30, or the tailored for you Mazda CX-5. With 0% APR for 36 months, you choose the perfect CUV to drive home. Our professional non-commissioned sales team always puts your best interests first. Plus, every vehicle purchase comes with 2 years free maintenance. Visit Hodges Mazda today or shop online at HodgesMazda.com. See dealer for details. Terms of fees for qualified applicants expires June 3rd, 2024.
International soccer returns this summer. Don't miss Premier League clubs Wolves and West Ham in Jacksonville for the Stateside Cup, July 27th at Everbank Stadium. Tickets as low as $35 at StatesideCup.com.
Hey Jaguar fans, I'm Donovan Darris, former 10-year NFL strong safety for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I know you're excited about this upcoming season. Well, I'm excited about the tackling technique camps we're hosting for youth ages 7 through 14 throughout Jacksonville. These camps will help the kids develop in all the necessary skills and development and thrills they need to be successful. Just like teammates, I need your help. I'm asking for you to consider to sponsor one child for $50. This cost will go towards a child who would not be able to attend otherwise. To do so, just go to my website, DariusNextLevelTraining.com.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Helmets and Heels is switched on by
First Coast Lighting and Fans.
Upscale lighting, fans, and home decor on 1010XL.
To refresh, the top 5 pass-catching units in the National Football League: the Seattle Seahawks, the Chicago Bears, the Houston Texans, the Miami Dolphins, Philadelphia Eagles, according to Bucky Brooks and Daniel Jeremiah. Where do the Jaguars fall? We're going to get to that in just a little bit, but first...
Now, Mia's Midday MyBookie picks. Experience the Vegas thrill from the comfort of your phone anytime, anywhere, only with MyBookie.
I know I joked earlier in the program, ladies, that there was nothing on TV last night. Not the case this evening. Let's run through my picks for this fine Thursday. The Minnesota Timberwolves back home, -4.5 against the Dallas Mavericks, who, of course, could clinch a spot in the NBA Finals at any time. I do believe the Timberwolves, RJ, please tell me if I'm wrong, please. I believe the Timberwolves are going to force this series to go to a Game 6. I can't believe I'm saying it, but I am. I do believe that they will make this a 3-2 series. There's something about seeing Stan Van Gundy at a Minnesota Twins game last night and Charles Barkley proclaiming that it was snowing up there. It was hail, Charles. It's 65 degrees in Minnesota right now. That says to me they've got one more in them, so give me the Timberwolves this evening. I also like the home team, the New York Rangers. +102 on the money line over those Florida Panthers. The Rats have the second best odds to make the Stanley Cup. A lot of people believe this series is all wrapped up. Back at the Mecca, I think the Rangers got one more in them as well, and I like them on the money line at +102. And, we're going to do it. We're going to go to the WNBA. Those odds are also now available at the MyBookie Sportsbook. Easiest money that you will make is the Seattle Storm covering a 5.5-point spread against the Indiana Fever tonight. Sorry, it's still not happening out there in the Midwest just yet, although we did see a 30-point performance from Caitlin Clark earlier this week, and so maybe they're starting to put some things together. Maybe you want to get a little dicey. I wouldn't go +179 on the money line with the Fever. Maybe that +5.5, even that's -110. Look, I can tell you this. If you bet against the Fever, your odds are good moving forward for at least the next few weeks. Those are my MyBookie midweek picks. I will also have some UFC odds coming up in the next break with some special insight from MMA analyst Bo Valentine, so you know you're going to want to not change that dial.
All right, if you want to go see Jane's Addiction and Love and Rockets at Daly's Place Tuesday, August 27th, be caller number 3 at 641-1010. You will win the pair of tickets to go see them. And if you don't win the tickets, you can get your tickets today at Ticketmaster.com. We will get to where the Jaguars pass catching unit ranks. Coming up next on Helmets and Heels on 1010 on 92.5 FM.
I get it. You're here because you feel like something's missing. You got some longing for something more. We're going to give you that thing.
1010XL, giving you something more. Now you can watch 1010XL shows all day on X, Facebook, and YouTube. Brought to you by MyBookie. Experience Vegas from the comfort of your phone anytime, anywhere. Sign up today. Use promo code 1010XL.
Bet on any fight, anytime, from anywhere with MyBookie. With UFC 302 this weekend, it's not just about betting winners, folks. You're betting on yourself at MyBookie. Boosted bets and exclusive money bag props give you everything you need to cash in on your fight knowledge. A main event clash between Islam Makhachev and Dustin Poirier sets the tone for what should be one of the most intense cards of the year, and it starts well before Makhachev-Poirier. Why not parlay the main event with a dynamite prelim between Jersey's own Mickey Gall and Philadelphia native Basil Hafez? Gall's last fight actually came in April of 22, right here in Jacksonville. So give me the Jersey guy at +280 in the Battle of the Turnpike. Sign up using promo code 1010XL. That is promo code 1010XL. Turn your big fights into big wins. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere, only with MyBookie. And don't forget that promo code 1010XL.
go! And happy Halloween in June. Come cheer your Jacksonville Sharks on to victory as they fight against the Arizona Rattlers this Saturday, June 1st, 7 o'clock at the VyStar Veterans Memorial Arena. With tickets as low as $15, you're not going to find any Saturdays with more family affordable fun. It's for everyone. Dig out your best costumes for Halloween night. It's always one of the faves. Whoever has the best costume will go home with a prize. Venture into the Scare Zone, featuring 13th Floor Haunted House. And join us post-game on the field for an autograph session. Don't miss the game. This Saturday, June 1st, it's Halloween in June at the Veterans Memorial Arena. Be a part of indoor football fun and exciting, non-stop action. For tickets as low as $15, call 904-621-0700. Get ready for Fright Night. Let's go.
Are you having constant issues with drains backing up? Have you wasted money on plumbers that can't resolve your problems? We're Duck Duck Rooter, and we have the solution. We'll come out to your home or business, identify your problem, and make the repairs once and for all. From visual camera inspections, hydrojetting, line replacements, our team of pros will get the job done right. Call now to schedule service and relax. 904-862-6769. Financing is available. DuckDuckRooter.com, a proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
An ACL tear can be a devastating injury with prolonged pain and rehabilitation. Hi, I'm Dr. George Bari. I'm a sports medicine orthopedic surgeon who grew up right here in Jacksonville and then went on to Drews. At Bari Orthopedics, we use the most current techniques to get you back on the field with less pain and quicker rehabilitation. We treat all types of sports injuries with the newest techniques available. Please call us for a consultation or visit BariOrthopedics.com.
Find out more at BariOrthopedics.com. That's BAHRI Orthopedics.com.
The flagship station of the Jacksonville Jaguars. WJXL AM Jacksonville Beach. WJXL FM Jacksonville Beach.
DivorceMenOnly.com. This is Kenny Lay of Kenny Lay & Associates. Our firm specializes in representing men in family law. That's all we do. That's our only focus. We can help with all of your family law needs, such as divorce, custody, alimony, and child support. For over a decade, we have helped thousands of men with these types of issues. We even have an appellate division ready to challenge a judge's ruling. If you need a family law attorney, go to DivorceMenOnly.com. DivorceMenOnly. Offices, Jacksonville.
This is Molly McDonald with your 1010XL Southeast Orthopedic Specialist Local Sports Update. After wrapping up the second week of OTAs, the improvements from second-year guys like running back Tank Bigsby and tight end Bretton Strange are evident. Jags offensive coordinator Press Taylor discussed what he believes the difference a year can make in becoming more comfortable within their system.
I think a lot of it, you see just the way they're practicing now. Of this time last year, they're swimming. You're trying to figure everything out. What's the offense look like? What's my role in this particular play? To where now in year two, they know it. They know their split. They know their alignment. They know their adjustment. They're able to play a lot faster. So you see a little bit more of that skill set you probably saw when they were in year 4, year 5 of college, and they understood the system inside and out. Now, the confidence they carry on the practice field, you're hoping that that extends over to the game field whenever the time comes for that.
The last community huddle put on by the city of Jacksonville and the Jacksonville Jaguars will be tonight at Westside High School from 6 to 8 p.m. Come out and learn more about the proposed stadium deal. It's 88 degrees at 1 o'clock. Time and temp brought to you by Bueller Air Conditioning. Stay cooler with Bueller.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
Light up your lunch with Helmets and Heels.
Presented by First Coast Lighting and Fans.
On 1010XL.
Taylor Dalmio, Brian R.J. Saunders. I'm Lauren Brooks with you on this Thursday afternoon. We're talking about Bucky Brooks' list of top 5 pass-catching units in the NFL. The Jaguars did not make the list. By the way, our own Gus Logue did his version of this as well, and so you can check that out at 1010XL.com, see if you agree or disagree with Gus. But as far as our list is concerned, we had, well, I should say Bucky had, the Seahawks 5, the Bears 4, the Texans 3, the Eagles 2, the Dolphins 1. What other teams would you put ahead of the Jaguars?
So the obvious, which obviously there's some issues out there right now in the financial world, is the Cincinnati Bengals. Yeah. And I think that prior to missing the playoffs this past season due to Joe Burrow's injury and a litany of other snafus that occurred out in Cincinnati, anytime you can put Jamar Chase and T. Higgins up against the best of them, I think you'd put them in that top 5. So they're probably 6, if I had to guess.
See, I would put the 49ers ahead of some of the teams that Bucky honestly had. Like, I'd put the 49ers ahead of the Bears because I think there's still things to be proven from the Bears and with the rookie quarterback. And again, that's not part of this conversation. But the 49ers, like, who wouldn't want to throw to that group of weapons?
Yeah. Especially with all the early reports that Ricky Pearsall looks legit out there.
Which that should be no surprise. He spent 18 years in college between two different schools.
Him and Brandon Ayuk were teammates, and now they're teammates again. That clip cracks me up. But speaking of Brandon Ayuk, obviously his contract situation remains in question.
Flux,
Yes, and Deebo Samuel was allegedly on the trade market, on the block during the NFL draft. And so how long will that wide receiver core be a top 10 wide receiver core?
The way they are now with Jawan Jennings and George Kittle, again.
And McCaffrey.
Right. And we didn't put running backs because Bucky didn't put running backs.
He catches passes.
But
he has a lot of receptions and yards every year, too, there. So,
like I said, I would have had the 49ers in my top 5, but we were just going through with what Bucky did.
I think I would have San Francisco in my top 5, honestly. And I feel like the Bengals, I agree the Bengals would be up there.
Yep.
To me, the Vikings, this is taking out quarterback because I don't really know what's going on there. But to me, Jordan Jefferson, Addison, and Hawkinson, I would take in a heartbeat.
I would too.
Yep, I would also put the Chiefs up there because
really,
yes, even though you don't know who is necessarily a great receiver, if you have Travis Kelce year in and year out, I think you have a unit that can win the Super Bowl, and that's what they've proven to us.
So now the all-important question, ladies, are you trying to tell me, Lauren, that the Chiefs, the Niners, the Bengals, those top 5 teams that Bucky outlined, they're all ahead of the Jacksonville Jaguars?
Yes. I have the Jaguars outside the top 10.
Taylor?
Same.
Okay.
But I will say for the Chiefs, I would not put them on there. I think that if you took the Chiefs receiving core and put them on like with Jared Goff, it wouldn't look anywhere close to what we've seen the last few years.
I probably have the Jags floating somewhere between 11 and 15. What I think is fascinating, though, is if Zay Jones had not been released, which I know he'd be the 4th wide receiver, how much playing time does he see really? But would that have changed the conversation surrounding that pass-catching unit? Because, yes, Gabe Davis, I understand those Buffalo fans that say he's boom or bust, but he caught some pretty big passes in the playoffs over the last few years. I know last year he was hurt in the postseason. So you got him. You've got Zay Jones, who in his own right had perhaps the best year of his career in his first year in Jacksonville. You have Brian Thomas Jr. If we're going to put the Bears in the top 5 because of Rome Odunze, look at what Brian Thomas Jr. did last year, leading the NCAA in touchdown passes and touchdown catches. And then Christian Kirk, who has proved everyone wrong, who said he wasn't a number 1, that he didn't deserve the money, and went on to have a 1,000-yard season in year 1 in Jacksonville and was on pace for it in year 2 as well. And honestly, has solidified himself, yes, even with BTJ, quote-unquote, in the waiting, as the number 1 wide receiver and the number 1 option here.
And I think this whole conversation, you really do need to include quarterback because that changes everything, right? Like, if your quarterback for the Vikings, for instance, can't get the ball to Justin Jefferson, if J.J. McCarthy doesn't play well in his rookie season, then your actual pass-catching unit isn't as good because the quarterback isn't good.
Yeah, but they're just talking about the players. And to me, like, the way you approach it is if you were to put these players on any other teams, would they still be able to produce number 1? Would they be one of those top 2? And I think that's why, to me, the Jags sit outside that because I think I could go through 8, 9, 10 teams to where Christian Kirk and Gabe Davis and Brian Thomas Jr. would not be the 1 or 2 wide receiver on their team.
Well, we just went through 7 that we'd have ahead of the Jags. I would also put the Detroit Lions ahead of them. You could make the argument the Los Angeles Rams with the 1-2 punch of Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp.
Even Higbee, like, he's a little underrated in certain years.
You could even make the argument, and I know it's aging fast down there in Tampa Town, but Mike Evans still did what he always does, racked up over 1,200 yards, and they still have Chris Godwin, too. Yeah. So, and that's, that's what, 9 teams. That's 9 teams I just rattled off that I would have ahead of the Jags right now.
Yeah, and then there's ones that are on the border for me where it's like Dallas. I love CeeDee Lamb. I think CeeDee Lamb's one of the best wide receivers in the league. I think Brandon Cooks also is one of the more underrated ones. But then beyond that, it kind of drops off. So it's like, how much are you taking into account what CeeDee does for an offense? To me, one that will be fun that I think could potentially be one of the top is the Raiders. Just because Devontae Adams, obviously incredible. They just added Brock Bowers, and Jacoby Myers has had a really good season last year.
And we loved Michael Mayer coming out.
And Michael Mayer, yeah. So to me, that receiving group is one that I want to put more along the tier of where the Jags are personally. Yeah. And because I do think they could have a breakout year to where you're like, wow, this offense is really explosive. or you could see it to where you're like, okay, well, without you take out Devontae, take out Christian Kirk, how far do they drop after you do that?
And for those Jags fans that are panicking as we're running through this list, lest we forget, 2 years ago, nearly to the day, some of our colleagues sat at not this table but a similar table and said that the Jags have 2, 2, 3, 3, no number ones, slot, slot, slot. And that team made the second round of the postseason, and all of those wide receivers, as well as Evan Ingram, enjoyed career years.
Well, also 2 years ago, we were talking about the Texans being one of the worst football teams in the entire league, and now they're in the top 5 of pass catchers.
Which, by the way, we didn't even bring up Stephon Diggs, by the way, in our conversation.
Oh, I did. I said
Diggs.
Okay. Yeah.
I didn't realize how high he was even last year in a quote-unquote off year in terms of overall receiver rankings.
Where would you guys put the Titans? Because
it's so funny you said that. I had just pulled up the Titans depth chart, and I was like, I don't even want to ask
Hopkins,
this question.
Ridley, Boyd.
But I do think, and Traylon
Traylon
Burks,
Burks.
if he can learn how to play in the NFL and stay healthy. I mean,
Again,
I
not
hate
thinking
it.
quarterback.
Right, and not thinking quarterback, but also not thinking of the pure hatred that I have for Tennessee. But there
Which
would
is
be
hard to dismiss.
Correct. There will be people that don't realize the Ridley situation last year because they just look at stats, right? They didn't watch every single snap of the Jaguars games last year, and so there would be a lot of people that would have Tennessee ahead of the Jags.
I think
right
so
now.
too. Just seeing these numbers, because D-Hop obviously is who D-Hop is, and he's been one of the more consistent wide receivers in the league for a while now. And then, Ridley. And I think some people will also say, okay, well, it was Ridley's first season back after almost 2 years missing last year. Everything was kind of a little clunky in moments when it came to that offense, and then obviously there was a bunch of injuries, so he was having to be the guy when he probably won't have to technically be that number one there. Will he take that, get more comfortable in the offenses, and now he has the year under his belt? So I could see people looking at this and being like, he had 1,000 yards in his first season back. What is he going to do with another year being back? And then Tyler Boyd has always been one where he's not phenomenal, but he's able to. He's
your Marvin Jones.
Yes. He's that guy that in kind of big moments you were able to count on, or when someone does go down, he could step in momentarily for a little while and get it done. So that one is interesting. I would put it a little farther down, but I could see people seeing that list and wanting to put them in the 11, 12.
Yeah, I think because the running back room is a little unproven, although Tajay Spears certainly proved his worth against the Jags in the season finale.
They also have Okonkwo.
And they have Okonkwo, who's one of the more underrated guys.
Yeah.
I would probably put them below the Jags just based off, number one, all 3 of those wide receivers we listed will be turning 30 or are past 30 already. And so I'm curious to see how much tread on the tires there is for those 3 receivers. But another important note to make as we kind of wrap up this conversation, as we're talking about top 5, top 10 pass-catching units, the Minnesota Vikings were in agreement. They are a top 10 pass-catching unit, if not top 5, between Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson. When you go down the list of top 25 pass catchers, so total yards from a season ago, Justin Jefferson is at 19 with 1,074 yards. I understand the quarterback situation up in Minnesota after Kirk Cousins went down. TJ at 960, and Jordan Addison is 33rd at 911. And so that's where, look, those numbers are astronomical, even with Josh Dobbs throwing them the football. And so it's impressive that they were all able to go over 900 yards.
Jordan missed quite a few games,
And
too.
Jordan also missed a couple games, yep. And so did Jay Jettas.
Yeah.
So I think it's fascinating, and it speaks to what Kevin O'Connell is cooking up there in Minneapolis. But I also think it speaks to the quality doesn't necessarily have to be, sorry, Taylor, that DJ Moore, which granted they were on different teams at this point, was 6th overall in total receiving yards, and Keenan Allen was 11th overall. And so by virtue of those 2 things, we put them in the top 5. But at the same time, now they got to share the rock. And so that's where I think the quality needs to be examined, and that's why the Jaguars 2022 pass-catching group caught so many eyes and caught so many balls.
Well, to me, an interesting conversation, not for today, maybe another time this summer when we're talking about this more, and maybe when we're getting more information of camps of how some of these young guys are doing, whatever that conversation may be. But when you take this, if we have our list of the top 10 wide receiving groups, when you add in quarterback, does it hurt or help?
Yeah, and I think for a team like the Bears, it might hurt.
That's the
for
question,
a team
I
like
think.
the Vikings, and hurt, not necessarily that people are predicting Caleb Williams or J.J. McCarthy is going to be terrible, but it does, usually outside of the case of C.J. Stroud, it does take a while to acclimate to the speed of this league and those just monster defensive tackles coming at you. And in college, you didn't have to worry as much about the interior pass rush. You had to worry more about the side pass rush. But yeah, those are interesting. And of course, to bring it full circle to our conversation to start the show about Trevor Lawrence, like, is he, in everyone's eyes, only helping, or do some people think, well, yeah, he has had too many turnovers and not great on third down and things like that? Does he actually end up hurting the team? All right, so Judy Batista has NFL bold predictions that we don't have time to get to today. We can address that another day, but it led me to the question of, what is a bold prediction that you have for your Jacksonville Jaguars?
I like that, especially considering the discourse on both the MyBookie Digital Studio chat line as well as the text line right now after our conversation regarding the pass-catching unit here in Jacksonville. I think it goes back to 2022. I think you'll see Christian Kirk go over 1,000 yards.
Okay.
I think you'll see Evan Ingram approaching 1,000 yards, although the hope would be, you get Brenton Strange more involved, and so maybe that takes a couple yards away from Evan, although obviously he's more of a flex. He's more of a wide receiver than he would be an inline blocking tight end per se.
So Christian Kirk over 1,000 yards.
Yep, Christian Kirk over 1,000 yards. And then I like BTJ and Gabe Davis to be in the same range, but slightly elevated from Marvin Jones and Zay Jones 2 years ago. I think you'll see both those guys eclipse 600 with Brian Thomas Jr. probably in the 700 range and Gabe Davis around that same mark.
All right, I like it. Taylor?
I am going to say that the defensive line is going to be a top 5 defensive line in the NFL. I think that and this obviously factors on some injuries because we want Devon Hamilton to be healthy, but I truly feel like with the addition of Eric Armstead and what we've seen in the past, I've already said previously, I think when I voted like the best player, those top 3 best players we had on the team, I think a healthy Devon Hamilton. I really personally love Travis. I've seen Travis Gibson be really successful when it comes to rushing the passer when that's what he is told to do and is not having to have multiple roles, which I think they'll be able to do that on this team. I think you'll continue to see Trayvon Walker take a step up. So I just think as a whole, it's going to add on to the front half of that defense. So I'm just going to say they're going to be a front 5 defensive line in the league.
All right, that is kind of similar to where I was going. I did go defensive line, but I'm going to say Trayvon Walker has more sacks than Josh Allen.
Ooh,
this season.
I like that. I've said the same thing off air quite often.
It's not a contract year for Josh Allen, as we all know. I'm not saying he's going to be lazy or anything like that or complacent. It's just there is a difference when you know you are chasing after generational wealth and every single sack matters so much, even the half sacks. And Trayvon Walker, I think, also Josh Allen will get a lot of attention. And Trayvon Walker is really blossoming into a guy that we knew he was a raw talent coming in here from Georgia, and he had to learn some of those pass rushing specific techniques. I think he's doing that. I think he's learning a lot from Josh Allen. And, of course, Ryan Nielsen now here going to provide even more advice for that defensive front. And so, yeah, I'm going to say Trayvon Walker. I didn't know that you also thought that, Mia.
Yeah.
I thought that would shock you.
No, that's honestly, I've been on that trail for quite a bit now, even if I've not actually said it on the air. Shout out to our content associate extraordinaire, John O'Leary, too, who's in studio with us right now. And John pulled me to the side at practice on Tuesday and said, Trayvon looks like a Greek god. Like, he looks like a different human being, which I know there's plenty of you out there driving in your car that are sick and tired of hearing us say that because, he looks great in T-shirts and shorts. No, like, you need to understand, and we'll do this exercise at some point, you need to understand the lineage of pass rushers and defensive linemen that Ryan Nielsen built in New Orleans, beginning with Cam Jordan.
Yeah.
If Trayvon Walker doesn't become Von Miller, but he becomes Cam Jordan and is here for 12 years, racking up double-digit sacks and consistently getting pressure on the quarterback and stopping the run, you would sign up for that every day and twice on Sunday.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was going to say sacks, but in a different light, because I was going to say that we might not see more or even like a similar number from Trayvon or Josh, but I do think the Jags will have more sacks this season than they did last season, because I think that Trayvon and Josh won't have to have as many as they did last year, because there'll be other guys that will be getting to the quarterback, especially in the interior. So I do think the sack number goes up, but I'm not sure we're seeing the crazy numbers we saw from those two last year.
Not 17 and a half.
Yeah.
But you'll see double digits, hopefully. But again, if you're getting Devon Hamilton's going to get 2 or 3 or 4, you get Mason Smith maybe 2 or 3 in his first year. Eric Armstead gets somewhere in that 5 to 7 range. Yeah. More would be even better. Roy Robertson Harris is more of a rotational piece. He gets you 4 to 5. Plus, I mean, let's address it. Travis Gibson, a healthy Travis Gibson compared to a half a season of Dwan Smoot, who was on one leg. and
I'd
and
4 or
Caleb
5
on
from
Chase
there.
on. I mean, if you get 4 or 5 from Gibson, and then. And again, we'll do the case study and like a deep dive into Ryan Nielsen's time in New Orleans later, but at some point down the road, because I think that when you look at what he was running there between Pete Warner and Caden Ellis and those off-ball linebackers that he was able to scheme into 5 to 7 sacks each on the same defense, and knowing Foye Oluwakin was very open last year, that it was really the first time in his career on the 5 or 6 times that he was asked to blitz and he had 2 sacks. That's where I look at the personnel and I see why Ryan Nielsen was so appetized and so excited to join this team and to coach this defensive group, because the pieces are there to model what he made in New Orleans, which was a top 10 defense perennially during his time there.
All right, Taylor, what's going on in Colorado? Is it tampering or catfishing?
I don't know. I saw this tweet last night, and it was a little late. Sorry, guys, but I was just kind of I was babysitting, so got home later than I usually do and went to bed later than I usually do. But I saw it, and I know we've had this conversation of kind of what's going on with Colorado and what's going on with Deion Sanders and all of this stuff. But I saw where there was a text exchange that someone went through and ended up posting on Twitter very, very blatantly. And so
the
between
head coach of Colorado State football.
Yes. And so he tagged Big 12 Conference in it and was like, is this considered tampering, or is at Coach Tubless and Colorado Buffalo football able to recruit our current players like this? So it goes on and it has the text exchange between what is reportedly one of the coaches from Colorado State and one of the players. And he's like, hey, they blank it out, blank from blank high school. Yes, who is this? Hey, man, how's it going? This is Coach Devin Rispris, the Assistant Director of Player Personnel here at Colorado University. Me and my team wanted to check on your availability. Are you a full commit to CSU? Yes, I am a full commit to Pueblo. Okay, do you have any interest in a commitment flip with us? I'll have to talk with my family and my coaches as well, if that's okay with you. Is there a specific time frame I need to get back to you? Okay, seems like a commitment flip will not be possible until next transfer portal opens up, so we'll be in contact with you throughout the season, and we'll hopefully be able to make this happen next offseason. Great player on the field, and I'm sure an even better person off the field. Have a great season, and we'll stay in contact.
And then Devin Rispress, who is Coach to Bless on Twitter, immediately responded to that tweet and said, nice try, y'all been catfished. Wrong guy, brother. You could have hit me up before tweeting this and embarrassing your program.
That's an easy excuse, though.
Yeah.
I mean, this is happening more than you know. This is happening not just with players that are already in college, players who are in high school, which, oh, by the way, Coach to Bless, Devin Rispress, Rispress, is the Assistant Director of Recruitment at Colorado and specifically deals with high school recruitment. So, I mean, it's an easy out to just say
that's not my number.
Also, like, you wouldn't say catfish. You could just say, like, somebody's posing as me. Like, I don't think this is a catfish scenario. Where's Graham Marsh? I'm just kidding. Like, the catfish is not in this context, you know? Like, also, why would someone drum this up and make this up, you know?
Someone who doesn't like Deion, maybe? I don't know, because we know, and in this article they mentioned it too, but we've talked before about how Deion Sanders has had some weird recruiting angles, decisions, yes. And so when you talk about that with Deion, and if it's someone who, I mean, he was bashing some guy, like some parents' kids on social media not long ago. So honestly, I'm not saying it is, because I would believe that honestly they're doing this, but I would also believe that someone would look into it and be like, let me try to get Deion in trouble because he just called my kid out on social media and I'm coming back after him.
Also, I hate to be that guy, but I was just in Colorado in April and drove from Boulder to Pueblo. It's about 2.5 hours, and I would assume that Coach Vigil, the head coach at Pueblo, has the contacts and phone numbers of the staff up at Colorado. I would not think he's posting this unless he double-checked and said, oh, yeah, that's him. So it's great that Coach Tubless wants to let the rest of us on social media think that, like it's a catfish. I would not I don't believe a head football coach would put this out there unless he knew verified that that's whose phone number this was.
But I'd also be surprised if someone was using their own personal cell phone number or work cell phone number to contact a kid and tamper with someone who everyone knows the other staff, right? Like
It's an
both of these
open
staffs
season,
know each
though.
other. But
They don't hold back at Colorado. They're coming. So, I mean, one way or another, that's what their hashtag is.
right, but I mean, when you know it's tampering, and like if I'm trying to recruit someone and I use my own cell phone number, like I know full well that I'm going to get in trouble. Like,
Right.
they can easily trace it back to me. So that's why
I mean, they try to take advantage of kids, though, because they're like, this kid's not going to go in certain situations. It's for the
He's
student.
not going to go back to his head football coach with
And
it
tell him
because
what
he's
is
going to go
going
to his mom and dad and say, "Hey, look, Dion wants to give me a bag and like let me play there." And if the kid is from Colorado, I would think that it's all the more reason to be like, "Oh, wow, like this is the official flagship school and university of my home state. Like this is an honor. This is my dream school." And again, I don't know exactly the student and the lineage there.
Yeah.
But I think that these recruiters, whether they're staffers, analysts, or coaches, they think they can get away with it because they don't think the player would ever go back to the coach outside of to say, "Yeah, I'm out." Because to actually provide these text messages, that's something we haven't seen yet.
Yeah, I'm not saying that no one tampers. Like, tampering absolutely happens. I know full well that it happens at every level of athletics and probably across most sports. That does happen. It just would surprise me if someone was going to be that blatant and dumb, frankly, to use their own cell phone that could easily be traced. But we shall see what the Big 12 and what the NCAA, once they investigate, what they have to say about it.
They do it in that article. It does say that they don't know if they'd look into it because they don't know if it'd be worth it. We might not ever
Because
get
it's
anything
happening
out of that.
everywhere.
They probably have more situations like this,
Right.
honestly, where they're getting text messages and they're like, "Here's another." Like, what can we do? Because the guy can just say it's not my phone number. Like,
Yes, they certainly can say that, and then again, they just will investigate. At least I would assume on the surface to figure out, is that his phone number?
The good news is I think our next guest may know a thing or two about the wild west that is college sports right now.
That's right. Chrissy Dosh will join us. She is a writer for Forbes for sports business. She also founded the business of college sports. That is coming up next right here on 1060 on 92.5 FM.
Helmets and heels.
This hour is brought to you by First Coast Honda Dealers. 1010XL takes you inside the program director's office with Jeff Prosser.
You yourself happen to have a terrible temper.
I do not have a temper! No one can say that I have a temper!
Mornings
I have a terrible temper.
on 1010XL.
What makes a Honda certified pre-owned vehicle so special? 182-point inspection, 24/7 roadside assistance, first-year free oil changes, and a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty for carefree driving backed by American Honda. Visit your local Honda dealer today.
The Jacksonville Orthopedic Institute is now offering online scheduling for new patient appointments for all of their positions. Simply schedule your appointment on your cell phone, tablet, or desktop. JOI is the first orthopedic practice in North Florida to offer this feature to patients. To schedule your appointment online, visit joi.net and click on the button at the top of the page. If you'll be using insurance, be sure and have your information handy. JOI, where the pros go.
It's tune-up time, and Florida Home AC, the official AC partner of the Jaguars, wants to partner with you for a cool summer season. Tune up your AC unit right now so it's running at peak performance when you need it most. Just call 777-4300 and order a tune-up for just $59. Keep your unit humming at optimal level. Log on to FloridaHomeAC.com and take advantage of their savings. Keep cool with Florida Home AC. That's 777-4300.
Add an ace to your Tuesday morning.
The third ace in 4 days.
Brunch with a tour.
Tour news, tips, and inside info.
Brought to you by Clearwater Irrigation and Art of Natural Stone.
8:30 Tuesday morning on 1010XL.
Navy Mutual was created by service members for service members, so we know what it means to serve. Our policies have no active duty service restrictions, so you can rest assured that you're covered no matter your duty station, home or abroad. To go even further, we promise that premiums will not be higher for those who serve in dangerous environments, including aviation, diving, or on deployments. Let us help you protect those you love the most. Learn more at NavyMutual.org.
Jumbo Shrimp Baseball presented by FIS is home all weekend at 1-1 Financial Ballpark. It's Coors Light Thirsty Thursday tonight and then Red Shirt Friday and fireworks tomorrow. The first 2,000 fans Saturday get a hip-hop t-shirt with more fireworks. Counterparts, presented by ViStar and Arlington Toyota. Then it's Baptist Health Sunday Family Fun Day. Log on to jackshrimp.com for tickets. Jumbo Shrimp Baseball, affordable family fun.
Frank Frangie here for Stanley Pools. You know, pool design has come a long way, and if your pool is outdated, Stanley Pools specializes in bringing older pools up to date for the whole family to enjoy. That's why I did it a few years ago, and man, I love the way my pool looks now after we added travertine pavers and so much else. Stanley Pools has been serving our community since 1988, so call them today at 269-7277 or find them online at stanleypoolsfl.com. That's Stanley Pools, a family tradition of fine swimming pools.
Men, if you're suffering from erectile dysfunction or PE, Prime Men's Medical Center will get your sex life back in just one visit. Their painless, breakthrough medical treatments eliminate ED and PE. Here's a specialist in men's health.
I'm Dr. Simovitz. Have Viagra or Cialis let you down? Prime Men's Medical Center offers the most effective treatments that eliminate ED and PE, with men lasting longer than ever. 98% of patients see instant results on their first visit.
Prime Men's Medical Center's breakthrough treatments will restore your sex life regardless of age or medical history. Your consultation and first treatment are free. Plus, you'll see instant results in the office. Plus, qualified patients will have their testosterone checked free. Call 904-902-8222. 904-902-8222. To regain your sex life in just one visit, call now. 904-902-8222.
Hey everybody, Mike Dempsey here for Dandy Foods. Dandy subs and sandwiches. Look, we always want you to think about those great options as you're driving around Duval. But the beauty is, even as I'm dropping pounds, Dandy's got great options for me as well. Told you all about their protein packs, delicious salads that they have out there. They have fruit cups for on the go. You know what they have. Veggie snack trays. You can grab those on the go as well. Perfect, healthy snack. Dandy is the name to know when you're on the go. So stop into a Gates store anywhere around Duval and make yours a Dandy. And do it today.
Cross, I'm thinking about changing my name.
Again? You're already the media mogul, the straw that stirs the drink, the Duke of Pablo Bay. Now what?
Refer to me as Dreamfinders Danny Hicken.
What in the blazes? Is this a cash grab?
No, it's just that I believe so much in Dreamfinders Homes. 20 locations in Northeast Florida, official home builder of Jags and Gators. Great opportunity for first-time homeowners.
All right, Dreamfinders Danny it is.
Did I mention the lowest interest rates you can find? Visit dreamfindershomes.com. Now let Dreamfinders Danny celebrate through the majesty of song. Dreamfinders,
oh, brother.
I believe they will build your home just right.
Now that's what I call high-quality H2O. If you want high-quality water throughout your home, call your local water boy. We install equipment to solve any water problem. WaterboyJAX.com.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Let's ring up another guest on the All-Pro Roofing phone line.
You're listening to Helmets and Heels.
Illuminated by
First Coast Lighting and Fans.
On 1010XL.
All right, we are joined by a very special guest today. Close to us here at 1010XL formally, and we haven't talked to you in a long time, so we are joined by Christy Dosh. She's Sports Biz, the founder for Sports Biz for Forbes, founder of the business of college sports, a lot of NIL stuff that Christy does. Christy, thank you so much for hopping on with us.
Thanks for having me. It's been a long time, ladies.
It has. I know your world has to be a little crazy right now with all of the legalities of the new settlement, and then with NIL and all of the details that have kind of surfaced with some of this. And I want to talk a little bit at first with the one closest to home when it comes to Florida Gators and Jaden Rashada and him suing Billy Napier and the boosters for Florida for promising money. Some of this name, image, likeness stuff that kind of came out that from what the lawsuit says was misconstrued in a lot of ways. So let's look at that a little bit, Christy. And one of the interesting things that pops out to me with this suit is that the lawsuit is directly towards Billy Napier and the boosters and not the LLC that was offering or the university. Why do you think they approached it this way?
It's really because the communications were with these individuals. And so not only have they named Napier, they've also named Marcus Castro Walker, who was handling player engagement and NIL for the football team. They individually named the booster. That's because these are the folks they were actually having text messages and emails with. And I can't wait to see what the answer in this looks like, because we've only seen the complaint. We only know one side of the story right now, so I'm really looking forward to the answer being filed so we can see what UF and the various folks from UF, what their response is.
Christy, building off of that, we see this $13 million allegedly that was promised to Jaden Rashada, and let's connect that to the news of last week, which is, of course, a very big topic, which we can kind of dissect it as we go along here. But the news that the NCAA is finding a way to not only pay damages to those student athletes who couldn't benefit off their name, image, and likeness since 2016, but also moving forward that there will be a way that universities, schools can pay players themselves. Where do you, big picture, foresee lawsuits like the Jaden Rashada one going, knowing that that toothpaste was also let out of the tube last week?
Well, there could be a lot more, I think, and for a variety of different reasons. I think there are some potential suits for what we call price fixing and some other antitrust issues, because there's a set amount here. And generally speaking, you can't restrict compensation unless it's been collectively bargained. Well, student athletes can't collectively bargain because they're not employees. So even though a court is going to potentially approve this settlement, it would be sometime early next year by the time that happens, it is still open to attacks, whether that's attacks at the NCAA or the conferences or the individual schools, because there's still an artificial ceiling here. They're still going to set an amount, which right now sounds like it's going to be between 21 and 22 million a year per school that they can pay out in revenue sharing. And it's not an arbitrary number. They have a reason they chose that number, but that doesn't necessarily protect it from attack down the road. And then you've got cases like this where schools are now going to be negotiating with student athletes, with their agents, with their parents. And there are a lot of different ways that those negotiations can go wrong. And the Rashada case is just one example of that.
Christy, do you think that NIL, when it started, was supposed to be name, image, and likeness, has transformed into something completely different and possibly a lot uglier than what it was intended for?
Of course, but I think everyone knew that was going to happen. I, not only myself, but a lot of other media members have been saying this for 10 plus years, that not that we're against allowing athletes to monetize their name, image, and likeness, but how do you allow them to do it and it not have this impact where it essentially becomes pay for play? We all know that it's happening. We all know these sorts of promises that are being made to athletes and some of the sums that are being paid to them for very little and sometimes no work in return. And the NCAA hasn't done much to curb it up to this point, although my understanding is that the settlement in this House case is going to include some mechanisms to allow the NCAA to monitor NIL deals a little more than they currently are, and also curb that kind of behavior. But it remains to be seen whether that will actually work or not.
Christy Dosh is our guest. You can find her at X at SportsBizMiss. Staying with that topic, Christy, one thing that I have been trying to wrap my brain around is that $20 million or $20 billion, whatever it is, that each school essentially would receive. Do you believe that they will take that sum and put it towards their non-revenue producing Olympic sports to pay those student athletes, and then the NIL dollars, they rely on the collectives that have already been established to pay football and basketball players?
Yeah, so what's actually happening is they're going to essentially be directed to pull from their own money, from their own revenues. I know University of Georgia's athletic director has already come out and said they will be dipping into some reserves that they have to be able to fund this. Each school will get to decide if they want to participate at all. It's not mandatory. Schools can decide they're not going to revenue share at all. Now, that may open them up to additional lawsuits, but they can go anywhere up to that $21, $22 million a year number. You know, some schools, I'm sure, will choose to do the full amount or something close to it. Maybe they'll start in the middle and kind of work their way up to it over a few years. But each individual school is going to get to decide how much of that they want to do and who it's going to go to. And I can tell you, I do consulting with a number of athletic departments, and I have been on calls this week about, well, can we only do men's basketball? You know, can we only do football? Well, what if we did these two men's sports and these two women's sports? Everybody's trying to figure out how they're going to do it, and it is going to look vastly vastly different from one school to the next, but that money isn't coming to them from anywhere exterior. They're going to have to rework their internal budgets and come up with this money out of what they get from the NCAA for March Madness, what they get from the college football playoff, what they get from their own sponsorship and ticket sales. So there's going to be a lot of budget changes within college athletics over the next 18 months or so.
Chrissy, another one of the interesting things to me that in this settlement was the part that athletes, they are still able to get a third-party NIL if they would like to. So they can get this money from the school, but in addition to that, get other name, image, likeness money. But the wording of it said it must be true NIL. What does that true NIL actually mean?
Yeah, so I've been on calls with some of the attorneys involved in this case, and actually listened to a bunch of podcasts yesterday where the attorneys in the case were discussing it. And it sounds like in the final settlement agreement, which they are currently drafting, there will be some sort of reporting mechanism. And it's been sort of bandied about that maybe a student athlete will be required to disclose all of their NIL deals in order to qualify for those revenue sharing dollars, and that if they don't do that, they don't get cut in on that revenue sharing money that we were just talking about. So we don't know exactly what the final language is going to look like, but they want to get their hands on more of these deals so that they can assess what is market value, because nobody even knows what that is right now. Is it just what someone's willing to pay? You know, is it based at all on their social media following, on their engagement? How are these numbers, sort of being addressed? And it's advice I've been giving collectives that I've done consulting with since the very beginning. You need to have a formula, and you need to apply it the same to every athlete you do a deal with, so that if the NCAA or the IRS comes back later and asks, why did you give this athlete $5.8 million? You better be able to come up with how you got to that number, and not just, I went back and forth with his agent and this is what we agreed on. And so I think a lot of people are going to be forced to show their math going forward. We'll see what kind of impact that actually has.
Yeah, you'd think that every team in a conference, every school in a conference would have the same formulas. Chrissy Dosh with us, the sports biz writer for Forbes and also founder of Business of College Sports. And, of course, on your website, ChristyBusinessOfCollegeSports.com, you wrote this fantastic article that really answers a lot of the FAQs. To me, what's fascinating is, let's say there's a star athlete who's 17 that lives in Jacksonville. I feel like that athlete and their parents have to be overwhelmed with how much money can they get? Do they have to form an LLC to worry about taxes? There's so many different things that all of this covers.
I beg of parents listening to this to please, please, please get advice from an attorney or an agent who is active in this space. And I actually have an entire list of those attorneys on Business of College Sports. You can email me and I'll send it to you. A lot of them do free consultations. Get advice, because I get parents who come to me. I'm a lawyer, and parents come to me 6 months or a year after their athlete signs a deal with an NIL collective, or they sign a deal with a brand, and now they're going to be agreeing to these revenue sharing deals with the universities, and it has a clause in it they didn't know was there that's now keeping their student athlete from doing something they want to do. For example, I had one, and the athlete created their own logo, and they were creating all this merchandise, and they were going to set up their own online store. And then they found out the contract they had already signed with the NIL collective actually gave all merchandising rights to the collective, and the collective essentially had the right to take over all that merchandise and to sell it and decide how much of it they were going to cut the athlete in on. So you've got to know what you're signing, and there are some bad contracts out there.
I know we've got a lot of parents listening today on Helmets and Heels, and if they haven't, we may have to put this interview up on our On Demand, because I think it's important advice from Christy Dosh, who is our guest on the All Pro Roofing Hotline. As we wrap up with you, Christy, my next question, going back to the lawsuit, the part about damages dating back to 2016, are you to tell me that Trevor Lawrence is going to get a check for like $67.17 to basically apologize for the fact that he could not benefit off his name, image, and likeness if that large lump sum is to be divided among all the athletes who played college sports since 2016?
He's probably going to get more than a lot, because they're going to divide it partially based on how many members of the class they end up with, and they won't know that until they give athletes the opportunity to opt in or opt out of this deal. It's estimated around 14,500 student athletes will qualify, because this is only Division I scholarship athletes who are going to qualify for this. But a lot of it is going to be decided based on a formula that a sports economist is going to come up with that's going to take into account each athlete's market value. So Trevor Lawrence is probably going to take home more than, say, a women's volleyball player is going to take home.
Oh, so one of the things, too, right before we let you go, because another part of kind of what went out in that settlement, too, Christy, was with the possible roster changes. And it's saying that the potential roster reduction to as few as 85 roster spots, which seems like it would be taking away the walk-on spots and leaving the scholarship spots, which is kind of what we look out from the outside. Greg Sankey spoke on this yesterday, I believe, and kind of indicated that that's still in discussion because that the size is obviously an issue around college football. So what are you hearing about that part of the settlement?
Yeah, there's a lot of discussion about whether the roster sizes are going to be set at the conference level or at the NCAA level. I would imagine it ends up at the NCAA level, but that it might look different for, say the Power Four versus the Group of Five versus, other institutions at the Division I level. So that still remains to be seen. And there's been some concern that that might cause cuts in women's sports, because if you bring down the number of roster spots and the number of potentially even scholarships for football, are you going to have to make cuts on the women's side? But we also are hearing from schools that I do some consulting work with, they want to add to sports like baseball that for a long time have been splitting a very small number of scholarships. Now they're going to be able to offer the scholarships to everyone on that baseball roster or the softball roster or whatever sport it is. So I think we may actually see some bumps on the women's side and also in men's Olympic sports, but it's going to vary a lot from one school to the next.
Christy, something tells me you haven't gotten much sleep this past week.
You got to be on Twitter like 20 or X, yes, whatever it is now, like 24/7, because you take a break for a few hours and something new pops up. So it requires constant monitoring.
Absolutely. Well, we really appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us today, Christy.
Yeah, thanks for having me, ladies.
Of course. There she goes, Christy Dosh, again, writer for Forbes, sports business, all things that fall under that category she'll write about, and also the founder of Business of College Sports. I've known Christy for, I want to say, 12 years now, something along those lines, and she's
fantastic.
Yeah, she's always super prepared, super knowledgeable, and like she said, she consults with a lot of these collectives.
Yeah.
So she has been in and out of this world now, or in this world now for a long time, and like she said, people 10 years ago were predicting that we were going to get to this point.
Imagine, like, just the bits that we know is a lot of information. Imagine the amount of information she has to know about NIL and now the settlement and everything NCAA that's coming up, because she just talked to about how, conference level, different conferences might do things different. We already have the issue right now with NIL when it comes state to state being different. So now conference to conference possibly being different. When does that start being like, well, the school gets to just decide everything? Or are we ever going to see just this uniform college football?
Never, because it's the NCAA.
Yeah, that was the problem.
It's just so messy.
And the NCAA knew this was coming a long time ago, and they did nothing about it. They just said, we'll let the legislation decide it. Well, the legislation decided it, and you were behind the times, and I get it. Like, it's impossible for that organization to figure out exactly how much money is being transacted from every person that's going, every athlete and every booster.
But to the point that you made, Lauren, last week when this bill or this lawsuit first came to light, you assumed that, hey, the conferences will get together and they will set an established set of guidelines of this is how you divide your financial revenue that you are generating from the college football playoff, from March Madness, et cetera, versus the money the NCAA is giving you versus the collective, and this is how you're going to divide it to your players. It doesn't sound like that is going to be the case.
I mean, a school can say, no, we're not doing it.
And then and then if you're the player, if they say to you, like, we're not going to pay you, you have a decision to make.
Yeah.
Do you still want to go play for that coach and play for that program, or do you want to go somewhere else where you will get paid?
Just go to Colorado, where they will text you and recruit you no matter who you've already pledged your allegiance to. All right, we've got one segment to go here on Helmets and Heels on 1010XL on 82.5 FM.
This hour of Helmets and Heels is brought to you by First Coast Honda Dealers. Get heart-pounding asphalt round in NASCAR.
Drag race!
Sunday at Worldwide Technology Raceway.
Brought to you by the Plumbers and Pipefitters Local Union 234 on your NASCAR station, 1010XL.
Anytime you've got major plumbing problems, and even the minor ones, there's several potential causes, and they usually can't be easily detected. So don't guess at a solution. Hire Roland Reese Plumbing at plumbingjacksonville.com.
Get ready to swing into the hottest party this summer. Join First Tee North Florida at the Yard June 13th for the Summer Soiree. We're bringing the spirit of the Pacific Islands to Ponte Vedra with a Hawaiian luau-themed event. Enjoy family-friendly fun, including Hawaiian food trucks, live music, craft cocktails, golf games, raffle prizes, and more. The First Tee Summer Soiree provides the perfect blend of golf, party, and philanthropy. All proceeds benefit the impactful programs of the First Tee. Visit firstteenorthflorida.org/summer soiree to secure your tickets today.
Imagine driving a late model Corvette, BMW, Mercedes, Lexus, Honda, Chevy, Ford, and more, all at a fraction of the original sticker price. Visit Vaughn Motor Group's indoor showroom and browse a great selection of dream cars that are inspected with warranties. Before you make your next auto purchase, check out Vaughn Motor Group on San Jose Boulevard or at vaughnmotorgroup.com for a complete inventory listing. If you can dream it, you can drive it at Vaughn Motor Group.
Bet on any fight, anytime, from anywhere with MyBookie. Mia here, and with UFC 302 this weekend, it's not just about betting winners. You're betting on yourself at MyBookie. Boosted bets and exclusive money bag props give you everything you need to cash in on your fight knowledge. And the best part is, when you play with MyBookie, you can stream and bet live right from the sportsbook, so you can turn those big fights into big wins. A main event clash between Islam Makhachev and Dustin Poirier sets the tone for what should be one of the most intense cards of the year. This is Makhachev's first title defense against a legitimate lightweight contender, whilst Poirier is looking to continue momentum from a stunning comeback earlier this year. You know you're going to watch the fights this weekend anyways, so choose the book that makes it simple to bet and easy to get paid. Sign up using promo code 1010XL. That's promo code 1010XL. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere, only with MyBookie.
A bucket of balls and free advice from PGA pros. Brunch with the Tour.
What's this about?
Dan, Jeff, and PGA Tour insiders.
It's a bit simplistic, but basically correct.
Brought to you by Clearwater Irrigation. 8:30 Tuesday morning on 1010XL.
Did you know a metal roof from Prime Roofing will last 2 to 3 times longer than a shingle roof? If you want a better roof, think metal. Think Prime Roofing. Schedule your free estimate today at primeroofingfl.com. That's primeroofingfl.com.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit porky, and you may even have type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Call Term Provider. Speak with Big Lou at 800-444-2013. Big Lou will find a term life policy for you even if you have type 2 diabetes, are overweight, or have high blood pressure. Term Provider has helped thousands of people like you who think they can't afford term life insurance. To buy $1 million of affordable term life for you, all you need to do is call Big Lou at 800-444-2013. Lou will make sure the scales are tipped in your favor. Call 800-444-2013. Big Lou will answer your call and work to fit you into a term life policy that you can afford. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds, too. Call 800-444-2013. 800-444-2013.
Mike Dempsey here with someone who made a huge impact in my life. Paige, the owner of Awaken 180 Weight Loss.
When I started Awaken 180 Weight Loss, it was from my own personal experience, my own personal journey. Because for me, losing weight was so impactful. Wearing different clothes was great, and seeing a different number on the scale was great, but that wasn't really the real impact, and that isn't what excites me. That isn't what I'm passionate about. Seeing the change in the rest of my life is what is so rewarding. And hearing the stories from people who have lost 40 pounds, 80 pounds with us, and seeing how that has impacted their lives and their journeys and helped them increase their confidence, help them start their own businesses, help bring their families together and deepen their relationships. That's what it's all about.
Thanks, Paige. Lifetime results thanks to free support for life. Schedule your Awaken 180 at-home consultation at awaken180weightloss.com.
I think one of the things that patients don't realize is that when they get a joint replacement, that's not a lifetime treatment option. And they're probably, if they are a younger patient, signing up for multiple surgeries down the road.
As a physician and medical director for QC Kinetics, Dr. Caravelli's seen a pattern of trending joint pain, prolonged medication, steroids, then surgery, possibly another surgery.
So a lot of our patients are trying to avoid or put off surgery, and this is the treatment that can help them do that.
QC Kinetics extracts your body's healing substances, concentrates them back into your aching joints to help heal and restore those areas, providing lasting relief.
Oh, I love being able to tell my patients, before we do this surgery, let's try another option. Let's see if this is right for you, because now they might not have to have surgery at all.
Call today for your free consultation.
Call QC Kinetics, 904-274-5522. That's 904-274-5522. 904-274-5522.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
This is Helmets and Heels.
Kept classy by First Coast Lighting and Fans. Upscale lighting, fans, and home decor.
On 1010XL.
Just a reminder, the final community huddle between the Jaguars and the city of Jacksonville is tonight at Westside High at 6 o'clock. So if you have any more questions about the Stadium of the Future, make sure you get there tonight. It is the last one. The Jumbo Shrimp lost last night 12-1. Ouch, to the Durham Bulls, but of course back tonight for Coors Light Thirsty Thursday. First pitch at 7:05, so make sure to get your tickets and head downtown tonight. Florida softball, speaking of tonight, takes on Oklahoma State, so this is the beginning of the Women's College World Series in Oklahoma City, and so I will be watching that tonight at 9:30. And I told y'all earlier, FSU men's golf lost to Auburn in the national championship last night 3-2, but a really, really good season for FSU men's golf. They just came up a little bit short.
By the way, some other significant news that kind of developed overnight, and I think we're going to have to table it because I know it's going to result in quite the discourse between Taylor Dahl, myself, and RJ Saunders. Lauren, you'll be involved too. Bronny James is staying in the NBA draft. He's going through the process. Rich Paul has said, quote, he could be drafted anywhere between number 1 to number 58. So let's table that for tomorrow. But, of course, our host of Open Gym every Sunday right here on 1010XL, RJ Saunders, is here. He is a part of Helmets and Heels. I think we're going to need a couple good minutes on that tomorrow, RJ. Can you give us a precursor to what we can expect for tomorrow's program?
Absolutely. I mean, I've talked about this ad nauseum. I mean, it's going to be an interesting next couple of weeks because Phoenix has now put themselves in the mix. The Lakers, of course, are probably putting themselves in the mix. I've tried to talk to a lot of people about this to get their opinion, and they think he's a prospect. I don't, but that's why they don't pay me the money to make those predictions as of right now. But, I mean, it's going to be an interesting next couple of weeks because if he does go high in the draft, I think it's too high, and you have to be honest with your picks. You have to be responsible with your picks, and hopefully he gets in the right scheme. Hopefully he gets in the right system, or this is going to be a disappointing outlook for a guy I think who should have spent 2 more years in college.
All right, that's going to do it for us today. XL Primetime comes up next, so don't go anywhere. For Taylor Dahl, for me, O'Brien, for RJ Saunders, I'm Lauren Brooks. These heels are made for talking. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
One of these days, these boots